welcome back to the channel, and welcome to part 2 of the 32 Ford Roadster build. I wasn't sure how long it was going to be before I did another video on this. I've been laid up with some health challenges, and but after looking at the videos and the photos I've been stashing away over the last 12 months since the last update, part 1, which was October of last year, it's hard to believe it's been a year already. I definitely had enough content to make another video, so here we go. I was able to pick up some wheels for it, some 16-inch wheels, big and littles, from a local friend. And when I left off with the last video, I was working on the rear, trying to get the brackets cut off, which I was finally able to complete. An enormous amount of grinding. I really don't know how many hours I have in cleaning this up, because I wanted to do it really, really well and, you know, not just hack through it. I don't have a plasma cutter, which would have saved, oh man, hours and hours probably if I would have had a plasma cutter, but I just used a flapper disc on my grinder, and eventually got there. This thing was reinforced a lot with the 4-link setup it had on it, and but I finally got that cut off and it was all come out real good. So the frame is a little rusty. It was slightly rusty when I got it, but it's a little rustier now. Thankfully, we live in California and there's not a lot of humidity, so pretty much the flash rust that's on it's from the few rainstorms we got this last winter, and probably the occasional animal coming into the yard and peeing on it. But got the frame back into the garage. Had been sitting behind the garage for, I don't know, probably 6 months. Pointing out a few spots there. Still need to do a final welding on it. I got a local friend's gonna help me with that. I can do a lot of things on these old cars, but welding is not one of them. I'll weld sheet metal. I'll do, you know, body prep and stuff like that. But structural stuff I'll leave to the people who know what they're doing. I don't want to trust my welding for that, just for safety purposes. Here's a new addition. So I had already picked up a Y block to go in this car, and it was out of a truck, a 62 truck, like my unibody. And then this new one popped up, and it is out of a 56 Ford, and it had an overdrive transmission with it, which I traded for this 3.2 intake. But this is a 55,000 mile original Y block. So original mile car, one owner car, and I think it's going to work really, really well on the Roadster. Getting the body off the frame helped a lot. I picked up this little rolling cart to set it on, which has been really convenient. Another Facebook Marketplace find. But started blocking out the gel coat that's on it. It's probably obvious to most of you watching, but this is a fiberglass body. The deck lid's steel, the firewall's original 32 Ford, but the actual body is fiberglass for now anyway, and maybe I'll pick up a steel body later, or I don't know. I've kind of kicked around the idea of even putting a coupe body on it later down the road, but for now I'm going to build it as a Roadster and see how I like it. And maybe I'll like having a Roadster, and maybe I won't. I don't know. I've never had a Roadster, so it's an unknown at this point, but get the body blocked out, cleaned up, deck lids off. I got the flash rust off of it. It had been also sitting outside for a while, but like I said, living in California, not much stuff rusts here, so I live in a really dry climate. Got a little bit of primer on the deck lid, some 2K high build primer, and help preserve that, not flash rust again. I've been going back and forth on the paint color, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. But we got a nice coat of primer on there, and then just guide coated it, did a quick block sand on it just to see how bad it was, and it's actually really, really straight. The edges, the outside edges need a tiny bit of work. Probably nothing that a couple of heavy coats of primer wouldn't take care of. So yeah, finally got the firewall pulled out of the body. That was still in the body when I pulled it off the frame, and love that firewall. Love the pinstriping. This is the set of handle line gauges that came with it, that I plan on using. Really love the way they look. Finally got the rest of the body blocked. It was a very, very slow, tedious process just to get it. I was blocking it with 180 grit, and just with my back and not being able to bend forward and bend over very well, it was quite a challenge. The doors on this have never worked correctly since I got it. It was kind of roughed in, but not finished. So once I dug into it a little bit more, I actually realized that the bottoms of the doors were actually too low, on the inside of the doors. And so once those were cut off, I cut about an inch or so off, and I'll just clean that up, and I'll just re-fiberglass it higher up on the door, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But they were hitting the body, so the doors were actually hitting the body, and they wouldn't close correctly, they wouldn't latch correctly, like none of that would work. So did a little bit of cutting, a little bit of finessing, and they seem to be pretty good. They're not perfect by far. Probably end up having to add some more fiberglass to the edge of the door where it meets the body. That gap is really large right now and just doesn't look good. The latch mechanisms also need to be repaired to work correctly. The hinges need to be, I believe, shimmed a little bit in order for that part to work correctly. This part of the door was actually hitting the body as well, so I'm just doing a little bit of grinding on that just to clean it up. The passenger side was fine. The driver's side was not fine, so it had some issues. So but happy to have the body, or I should say the body and the frame, in the garage, being able to work on it. If you'll notice, the gasser is not in the garage and the unibody is not in the garage or in the driveway. I'm actually storing those somewhere else right now, which is making it super convenient to start locking this up in the car. Getting a 9-inch placed, I'm just trying to rough it in, see how things are going to line out. I got to start getting the brackets set. I got to get the brackets welded on the rear, tacked on the rear. A local friend is going to be doing the welding for me. There's a few different spots on the body that need to be welded, and then all the bracketry on the 9-inch will need to be welded, which I think is a total of 6 brackets that are going to be mounted to the rear. So I've got 2 for the ladder bars, 2 for the spring mounts, and I should say shock mounts, and then 2 for the actual spring, the leaf spring. So here's the rear leaf, getting it cleaned up. My daughter's helping me here, and which is great. It's always nice to have some hands in the shop. Many hands make light work, right? So she was gracious enough to help me do some sanding on this. It still needs to be finished and painted, but at least we got some of the cleanup work done, and lots of grime and whatnot on these. I mean, this spring is 90 plus years old at this point. Model A, 1928 to 31, and this is 2022 at the end. So old springs, pretty cool though. I finally got to use my hydraulic press to press out the bushings that were on the ends of this Model A spring. And I tell you what, for being in there for 90 years or so, they did not want to come out. That took quite a bit of effort and finagling to get this spring in there correctly. I didn't get any video of that. We were just trying to focus on getting it done and not hurting ourselves or hurting the part in the process. Here is some of the bracketry that I got from RJ's Speed Shop. Been really, really happy with the quality. They look great. So that's a shock mount here. It's going to mount like that, so the curved part will mount to the bottom of the 9-inch. Starting to do a little bit of cleanup on the frame. I think this day I was experimenting with some CLR just to see how that worked with the frame. And it did okay. I needed to get it cleaned up. I actually had the DMV verifier come out to check the numbers on the frame so I could get a title, which I'm super stoked. I finally got this thing titled and actually have a pink slip in my name for this car, which, yeah, amazing. So that worked sort of okay. I wanted something a little bit better, and I was looking around, and stuff is just expensive. So I mean, a lot of the rust converters are like over $100 a gallon. So this OSFO is pretty amazing. $27.99 at the local Ace Hardware. So I went and bought 3 gallons of it. It actually goes a long ways, and it works really, really well. I put it on probably heavier than I should have. Typically, you'll wipe it on for a certain length of time, and you'll wipe it off, and it'll give you this really nice gray finish. This had quite a bit of old rust on it, and I honestly just didn't want to take the time to go through the whole entire thing and, scuff the whole thing. So this stuff would convert it, and it converts rust. It just turns black to a black oxide, and then anything that's regular, just more cleaner metal, it turns gray, and it puts a barrier in the metal so it won't flash rust again. So really happy with how that came out, and got some primer on the frame. So this was maybe not 100% ready to prime, but I was completely sick of looking at the bare metal, which I've had it that way since I bought it, and I wanted to get some color on it. So I picked up a gallon of just lacquer high build primer, which is really not the best stuff to use. It was cheap, and I didn't even spray this on. I actually used a roller and a sponge roller and a sponge brush, a little 4-inch roller. But I wanted to get it on there. I wanted to get a little bit of primer on there so I could just start blocking and clean it up the sides, which you can see here, just using the DA. I had taken a lot of my tools and sandpaper to the other location that I mentioned where I'm storing the gasser in the truck, and I didn't really have the correct sandpaper to be sanding on this. I think I ended up using 600, which was a little too fine, and it didn't work the greatest. I mean, it worked okay. It just took a lot of time, but it really is not ready for final wet sanding for paint. I did this for a while. I just really wanted to see how straight the sides were, and they're actually pretty decent. The OSFO that I left on it, the rust converter, left kind of some streaks, and that was kind of coming through the primer. I should have sprayed the primer on there, but I just, being in the garage, I didn't want to spray in the garage. So I just rollered it on. But rollering it on doesn't seem to put it on very thick, and it's not like a 2K high build primer, which is what I should be using, which I'll probably bring some of that back home and end up spraying that on the sides anyway, because the sides are really the only parts you're going to see once the car's assembled together. And but yeah, I did this for a while, and it was okay. And then I eventually found one piece of sandpaper with some 180 grit. I found an old block that I hadn't used in a long time, an old wooden block, I guess block sanding block. I don't know what else to call it, but I've had for, oh my gosh, probably 30 years or something. I like the Durablocks. I've been using those a lot. That's me wiping off the primer that I splattered all over the place. The Durablocks block really, really well. But like I said, I took all of those out to the other location, and I don't have them. So I found this in my cabinet. I hadn't used it in a long time. And yeah, it works just fine. It's some tools make things easier, but a lot of it's just technique and being able to use the tool as intended to block things out. You're basically just making it flat by blocking it. So roughing this out just to see what's going on. It's actually looking pretty good. I think the driver's side's a little bit rougher than the passenger side. I haven't blocked it yet, but just glancing at it, it seems to be pretty decent. And yeah, I'll probably block the insides of the frame, the outsides of the frame, and probably the bottom of the frame. The rest of the interior, the cross members, X member, and that sort of stuff, I'm just gonna all scuff it and then spray it. I'm looking at the VHT chassis and roll bar paint for the inside of the frame area. Not sure I'm going to use it on the outside. I'm not a huge fan of spray paint as a whole. It's, you know, it's never really fully cures. You know, I'm not familiar with the brand new stuff, so maybe the new stuff is better than the old stuff. But the old stuff just, I don't know, just was kind of funky. And but anything that requires a catalyst, it's going to seal, it's going to get hard. You're not going to have to worry about it rusting. It's going to be a little bit more durable. But yeah, happy to be at this point with the Roadster so far. Still going back and forth on the color scheme, but for now, the idea is I'm gonna do the whole thing black. The original idea with getting this red oxide lacquer primer, well, the body's fiberglass for one, so I don't have to worry about that rusting. But spraying the body, the red oxide, and spraying the black on top of that, and then color sanding through the black gives it a, you know, if you can see a little bit of the red coming through the black, I always thought that was kind of a great effect, and gives it kind of a more of a patina type build, which I knew is really popular right now. And I don't like fake patina, but this is gonna basically look like real patina, you know. It's fiberglass car, you know. So so that's the intention. I'm really close to being able to start mocking up the brackets on the rear, so that's the next step. That'll be in the next video. And let's see what else. Yeah, getting it set down on the ground. So as soon as I get the bracketry to the point where I can roll it back under the car, I need to do the cross member for the front of the ladder bars. So I gotta get, that's gonna be kind of tricky. If you look close on the left there, sitting on the frame, that's actually the ladder bar cross member that goes between the frame rails. The way the X frame is set up in this car right now, I'm not sure how well that's going to fit. So I may have to cut that down. That's going to be a challenge to figure out. So I got to get that sorted out. And then also once it's on the ground, I got to get the engine set in it and figure out my motor mounts, because those also need to be welded to the frame. So they are all set up, ready to bolt to the Y block. So I need to get the Y block into the garage. I need to get the adapter and the bell housing, which I just finished up in the first video at the very end. I painted the bell housing gold, so I got the adapter on that. So that'll need to be bolted to the 5-speed that I have, bolted to the Y block, set in place, and I'm hoping that everything clears with the way the X frame is set up. This was mocked up originally with a Muncie 4-speed and a small block Chevy, and I'm not sure with the Muncie and the 5-speed if those are all going to jive as far as the way this was set up. I really hope I don't have to modify the X frame in order to get the transmission in there. I don't think I am, but you know, I'll have that information going into the next video. So back to the wheels and tires. So I was able to find a good deal locally on some 16-inch wheels, some big and littles, which is what I wanted. The front wheels are great, but they're the wrong bolt pattern, and I went back and forth on whether to try to find a spindle setup with a different bolt pattern, or just change the wheels. So the bummer part is all the wheels are color matched, red and white. They look really nice, fully painted. I've got the beauty rings, I've got the center caps and everything, and the tires are in great shape. but the front wheels won't bolt on the way it's set up now. So I ended up finding a rough set of original Ford wheels for the front. Those will need to be cleaned up and painted, and I'm gonna have to do some welding probably on one of them. It's got some issues, but they're pretty rough. I got a good deal on them from a friend, so we'll see how those go. Worst case scenario, I could just buy 2 wheels for the front if I need to, but I'm hoping to be able to use those on the car the way they are, not the way they are, but once they're repaired. I'm thinking they're going to be repairable. One of them's pretty good and the other 2 are okay. So, well, if you've stuck around for this long, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting me. Trying to grow this channel into something, entertaining and also educational. I've been messing with cars for a long time. It's very enjoyable, and I should have gotten more serious about my YouTube channel a long, long time ago, but, hey, that's just the way it goes. So, thanks for the support. Please share, like, subscribe, share it with your favorite Facebook groups or whatever, I really appreciate it. So this is the little sanding paddle I was just talking about a minute ago. It's wood. I mean, how many people use wood sanding paddles anymore? But, it works. I found one piece of 180 grit paper that I had lying around that was probably used for something else, but it works. It's flat, allows me to get the surface, uniform, and this is going to be primed, probably 2 more times, I'm guessing. I haven't decided if I'm going to do the rub through of the black paint on the frame yet or just do it on the body. Typically lower parts on the cars don't get as much wear and tear as the tops do with, just sun and aging and weather and, how that stuff works. But so we'll see. I'm having fun playing with this car. It's, I've never done one of these before. It's kind of an experiment. Every little part's an experiment, and I'm just playing around, having a good time, which is what we all should be doing with our old cars. So get out, drive your stuff. Again, thank you very much for the support, and enjoy the video, and we'll see you next time.